With the increased use of facilities at St.Amant, the leisure guides, visitors performing, is there any way to better improve communication so that we know what's going on, who's invited to attend? We have people coming and going in the evening and looking for programs that we know nothing about, cannot be helpful. Meaning, I guess the person can't be helpful, right? Because they don't know what's going on. Also, there have been numerous events that have not been passed on to staff and get clients to enjoy these events. Actually, I knew about this. So acknowledge that there is we do have an issue. I guess in some ways it's a good issue. We've got so much going on that we can't keep track of it all. So I don't have an answer for you right now, but I think it's something that probably, when we did talk about this the other day at executive, we said that there needs to be a few people involved in this conversation, and we named the different, it needs to be the supervisors and the unit staff and the recs people and school, because school sometimes is running the activities, etc. So we're gonna try and work on that one for you. With regard to staff evaluations and promotions, does this include everybody? So when I talked earlier on about the staff salary reviews, etc., those are for non-union positions, because the union positions are all determined by the bargaining process. So just to be clear on that. And the salary evaluation, this is one of the priority concerns for everybody, unionized and non-unionized. I would agree. I don't know how many times, most of my meetings outside of St.Amant with abilities are focused on how can we get the wages up for the people that work in the community side, because there's a significant differential between them and folks who work in other parts of our organization too. And then that's not even speaking to all of the other people who when they sometimes compare themselves against other positions in other jurisdictions, they feel that there's a gap there. Are there any plans to improve and expand the staff fitness room? There's discussion that this is needed, but we don't know what to do. In the exception of, we don't have any more space, unless we build on, and somebody had a great idea that we needed to put what do you call it? Relax. Say it again, please.
Wellness center.
A wellness center out by the river. It would be connected, wouldn't that be wonderful? Does the recent change in the provincial government make us concerned about the future funding for St.Amant? I'll answer this at a couple of levels. I did have a chance to actually meet the Premier before he was the Premier, and they did make a commitment, if you remember, about frontline. They're not going to touch frontline. We are frontline. So that in itself should provide some security as to what they're going to focus on and what they're going to prioritize. If they ask us, we have a plan. It's about wages and professionalizing the sector. It's about removing red tape and barriers, which we think this government is very interested in. I'll give you an example. It was actually the Conservative government back in the 90s that set up a program called the Company of Friends, which lets people decide where they're going to live and who they're going to buy their supports from. It gives them and empowers them a huge amount. And it actually got the city, bylaw stuff out of the way. So we're hopeful that if they did it in the 90s, that maybe they'll be willing to embrace some of those ideas again. What emergency code should we use in case of a zombie outbreak? White, blue, or green? And then it says in brackets, hey, it could happen. How many community homes are expected to open in the next year? I just talked to Leanne, and then if we look at community services too from Dana's area, we probably have about 3 to 4 shift staff homes in the next year, and then we're constantly developing new foster homes, if anyone knows. Supported independent living is a growing area, so there's growth in a number of different areas. So a home to me is where somebody chooses to live, so actually we could have quite a few. How would you address the issue regarding supervisors who are biased and non-transparent? If you work for a supervisor who you feel is biased and not transparent, you have a number of options. Probably the one I would highly recommend is you speak to HR, because in this situation you feel like you can't talk to your supervisor. You can also go to your supervisor's supervisor. Can we fix the potholes? Do you remember? Was it the last one? We said there's a big hole up there, and it was fixed within a week after. It's quite amazing. I can't guarantee that will happen with these ones. Where is the new clinic going to be located? When can we expect it to open? We're not sure. We think we might have a preferred area, but we want to be careful and not say it to everybody in case we don't do it. So we're working on it. I think what we may see, first of all, is more of a mobile capacity with some room to do some lab and that kind of work first. I know the community psychiatric clinic was on one of our floors. We just took over that space, did we not? So we do have options within the building, but we don't have a firm decision yet. Recommendations for the next town hall: to have video cast on the TV, as not everyone can see these screens. Thank you very much. You have been quoted as saying the recommendation to transition a person is based on the health assessment recommendations of the physician, nurses, clinicians involved in their care at the time there's a discussion with the families and the decision makers, as well as with the individual themselves. If everyone is in agreement, the team develops a transition plan to support that move. So my question is, what happens when the parents are not in agreement with moving their loved one to the community? I believe we have talked about this before. As a facility, we have a responsibility to ensure that we use our resources in the most effective way, kind of consistent with the direction that we're headed. We believe that there are certain people, because we know, because we have and we do support them in the community already. So it's not like we have to prove to ourselves that certain people with specific needs can live in the community. They are living in the community. So as an organization, we are entrusted with making a decision about the best utilization of our resources. And included in that is what environment we think the person would have the best chance of kind of living a good quality of life. That is our responsibility. That is our team's responsibility when our staff meet together. And yes, there are times when our recommendation will not be consistent with what the family would like at that particular time. So I think what we've been trying to do is work with individuals to try and explain why we think that would be a good option, to introduce families who are hesitant or resistant to actually touring facilities, to sharing stories about people who have moved out. We're trying to do that in a respectful way over an extended period of time. We're not saying we made the decision Friday and you have to move out Monday. That's not how we operate here. But it doesn't mean that just because the family says that their family member should stay here forever, that that's a decision that we would necessarily move forward with. Why are residents being taken to hotels instead of the cottages? Why is it more expensive to use the cottage? And if we are not using it for the intended purpose, what are you using it for? Now, what I have to declare is I'm not sure, are we talking about the cottage, the vacation leisure cottage, where people are going to hotels to, I'll use an example, I know someone who likes to gamble, and they like to go hang out at a hotel right at the casino. And if that's what they want to do, then and they have the money to do it, then all the power to them. So I wouldn't in any way say you got to go to that cottage. Now, I'm not sure if the other interpretation of this question is there are kids and individuals that are being put in hotels because they can't be cared for in facilities sometimes. And if the answer to that is There's the odd time where we do support people in our cottages, the ones over here, for very specialized needs, but I'm guessing it's the, yeah, I thought it was the Spirit Cottage. Yeah, okay. When you were talking about the transition process from here, I did not hear, like I think when we were doing our interview, so much about the family being involved in the process until later on when we were talking about the families over at the house, etc. And so the question is, are families really involved right from the beginning of the transition process, and they are involved in the process right from that beginning planning meeting with our staff here. If community living is so great to live in and supports are so great, then why are CRP residents utilizing the pool and gym here at 440 River Road? I think some of them are coming probably for some of the leisure activities and participating in that. There is, I know, one individual that uses our pool because for medical and health reasons it's the right thing to do. I guess simply as a leader of St.Amant, I would say this facility is available, and one thing we've been trying to do with things like the FM Cafe is have some flow in and out. I guess that's causing us some issues at night when we've got too much going on, but I wouldn't want in any way want to say that if you live here and you move out, you can never come back and utilize the facilities or visit friends, etc. What are the identifiable markers that indicate residents would be a good candidate for CRP? I'm going to have a hard time being so specific, but I think one of the criteria that we've tried to be very clear on is that as St.Amant River Road moves forward, we really do see a focus on people who need crisis supports, people who need kind of more medical respite, and people who need access to nursing care on a very, very consistent basis. So the answer would probably be everybody else could possibly benefit from a community. What types of prevention and monitoring occur regarding the vulnerability and safety of residents in a CRP home? CRP homes are licensed and inspected, both from a physical aspect, the physical structure, the fire, etc. All of that is inspected. Most of them, if not all, have sprinklers, but most do. So from the physical structure, there's an inspection, and then also the medical records, the trips to the doctor, all the logs that we keep on medications, etc. They're also inspected on a regular basis, both by us as an organization that oversees those homes, but also by outside government staff that come in and do those inspections. And also, if there are any issues at times, we are very open as an organization to inviting outside parties to participate. As a matter of fact, we would rather prefer that there be a member from Family Services participate in any allegations of mistreatment or anything that might happen as a serious incident. I'm just wondering, with all the facilities here at River Road, if we can organize a conference here. This will help showcase more of what we do and will ultimately reduce the cost of organizing our conference out in other areas. Given the size of our conference now, it would be actually quite a challenge to have it here. We could produce or have a different type of conference here. Suggestion for further reflection. Could we get baby change tables installed in the first floor bathrooms? Parents visiting with small children and infants have nowhere to go in the building for this. Is there no baby change table in the wheelchair accessible bathroom on the? No, there isn't it. Yeah, that's a good suggestion. Very good suggestion. I'm not sure there'd be a room in the other two, but for sure in the accessible bathroom, that's something we could look at. Can you please explain the rationale for canceling the host programs in the evening? We are now unit-based, which greatly decreases the client's opportunities to socialize with other clients and staff from different units. Host programs are also attended by community clients. It is our understanding that the reason was that there was administrative funding difficulties. So when I raised this, because I had this question a little earlier, so I had a chance to talk to a couple of people, the canceling of any host programs, I guess, is that like a cooking night or things like that? It is not intentional. And if that is an issue that we're seeing that people would like that reintroduced, or I think we're quite willing to look at that. There was also a question about Aboriginal culture events that, and I'm going to kind of tie the two together, which have always been a priority for St.Amant, and the WHA are no longer carried out on a weekly basis. This is an important cultural event for approximately 30% of our population, and it's unfortunate that this is only provided approximately 4 times a year by the WHA. Are there any plans to provide this value? Now, when I asked about this, apparently some of the units are doing some Aboriginal activities on a weekly basis. And that if that unit is running it, my understanding is that everybody else is welcome to attend. So that may be a communication issue that we can start to let everybody know that we are running a drumming group or an Aboriginal event. But I think it also ties into the, if this is seen kind of as a host event, and if there are people even coming from the community to join in those, we don't want to see that as a loss, and we'll have a look at that, okay? So thank you for that. Can the hallway lights be kept on? Oh, I already mentioned that one earlier on, right? And yes, we should keep the hallway lights on unless there's some specific reason. That is, we do have 1 or 2 people who like to turn the lights on. Can the tables be cleaned more frequently? I take it these tables here. So there's a suggestion. Are you going to add more training, especially when support workers are going to help? Can they be more appreciated with their work? So we need to train them more, and we need to appreciate our staff more. And somebody by the name of Jonathan is the best team leader you've ever met. A little shout out there. Thank you. How many new residents moved into 440 River Road since the start of the strategic plan? Moved in? I don't know, but there's been 5 in the last, 4 or 5 in the last 3 weeks. That's not reflective of a 3-week period.
In and out, there's probably more than a dozen.
For sure, more than a dozen have moved in. But some people only come in for a block of time, 3 or 4 months, and then are transitioning out. How many residents have been moved out under the public trustee? And then question with families' wishes. And I don't have the breakdown of the people, but some people who have the public trustees decision maker also have family involved too. So we do have that information. I don't have it at my fingertips here today, but there would be for sure a mix of family, of people who are under the public trustee, and of people who have the public trustees decision maker and who have family involved also. What type of training do staff have of knowledge, experience with complex medical needs? Are they trained on feeding tube seizures? And now I take it we're talking about people here are trained if they work with people who have that need, and if they are in the community, they receive that training, and it's actually overseen by a nurse. So it's provided, we have kind of 2 levels, if I'm correct, and I'm going to watch Leanne and Dana to tell me if I'm right. We have our nursing staff who help out in some of these situations, and then we also have the WRJ home care, feeding staff, and some of those people at times too. So depending on the person's needs, we have resources available from within our organization and some from the experts at the WRJ too. We're experts too. Can you paint the concrete on the cafe ramp? Bright colors would make for a nice atmosphere in a gloomy cafe. Which ramp? This ramp here? Oh, that's a good idea, actually. You don't have to talk to me about color. I like lots of colors, so we just got to convince Rick and Mike. Autism Program Senior Manager is doing such a great job. Is there a plan in the future that she will be one of the executive members as well as in order for the rest of the team to move up? That's a good question. I'm not going to answer that black and white here today. But we are looking at how best to have the autism area served through our executive. Right now, it's in a relationship, direct relationship between myself through to Carrie. So, but thank you. And what a nice compliment. Does the organization have enough budget to allocate to the day community program to provide a frequent outdoor programs for the clients? More frequent? Does the organization have enough budget to allocate to the day community program? So the day service folks? Okay, the money that we have in the budget is mostly for staffing and for facilities costs. We have, as you're aware, we have funds that we have been raising through the foundation to provide for extras. And I know that we had a couple of questions about why do we have such old equipment and games and things like that. Before this town hall, I asked, we took care of that, right? And I was told, yes, we have $10,000 for the community day service program to kind of buy new equipment and fun things to occupy time. And I can't read your lips, but...
share a little bit of information about what we
Sure.
spend money on, as well as answer that question a little bit more.
Sure.
Okay. Hello. Yes, good. Okay. So if the question was related to community-based services, what John was sharing was that before the end of his last fiscal year, several $1,000s, in fact $10,000 from the foundation was contributed to upgrade some equipment, educational materials and various supplies, which not only included things such as cables, wedges, it also included adding to the iPad resources that are available. We also purchased a number of adaptive computer programs that people could be accessing for literacy development, communication development, and overall development of education skills. Now, those resources are available not only to the community-based service, but also available to people within River Road Place, within the units, as well as, I think, anybody that we serve within St.Amant, as long as we're monitoring kind of access and usage and those kinds of things, so we know where they last were. With respect to accessing more community activities, we do have a limited funding budget in terms of contributing towards the cost of activities, but what I can share is that we have access to a number of vehicles that will enable us to go out more frequently. In-day services, although it's not a one-to-one ratio, we do have good ratios where we can support smaller groups of people to access activities on a regular basis. And as a team, we have been working on planning on how do we organize schedules and ratios to do that more frequently. Something that we're also looking at for the future is to increase our access to smaller wheelchair accessible vehicles and looking at whether we're sharing some of those resources with the community residential program vehicles or looking at adding to our existing fleet. And so there will be increased opportunities for people to have access to transportation. Okay?
Thank you. I've got two more questions. I'm a little bit disappointed that there were only a very few staff from the Community Day program who were given the opportunity to attend the CCDA this month. Question: what are the long-term goals of the organization with regards to building the skills and expertise of staff? We would appreciate if you will let us all enjoy this privilege for our professional development. So I'm sorry that obviously this person and maybe a few of their coworkers weren't able to attend, but I am happy to hear that you do view that as a very valuable professional development opportunity. I think, you know, we're very proud to have the conference because it allows us to kind of bring the best, some of the best speakers in from all over that normally, if we were doing our own PD here just as an organization without a conference, we might not have access to. So we've got to kind of figure out how to do that over, you don't get to go every year. Not everybody does get to go every year. But that also shouldn't stop the work units or, the programs from having a conversation about what is it that we need to learn about, and is there any way for us to do that without going to a conference? Is there, today information is everywhere. Even some of the TED Talk stuff is quite fascinating from professional development opportunities. So good feedback, and that's my answer for that. Could you also be able to provide a social event at day program? So now we're talking about a social event during the day that's kind of like Funky Monkey. So if we can find enough entertainers or be creative enough, it would, I think some of the during the day activities that tend to be some of the school groups and symphonies and things like that, which we try and take advantage of, and I think everybody's included most of the time in those events. So, but if the question is, can we do a Funky Monkey during the day? I'll leave that to you guys to talk about further. It's another idea. So with that concludes all of the questions that I have for today. I want to thank all of you for taking time out of your very busy schedules to come and participate in the town hall. One thing I will just mention to you is that in the past we used to do quite a few smaller town halls, but because we changed the format this year and added the interview style, we're really going to encourage people that aren't here to actually watch it online, because that's the best way for them to really hear what happened. In addition to that, if they have questions afterwards, after they've watched it, we'll, through our communication area, we'll figure out a way to collect those questions and bring them forward and answer them in maybe a different format. I know Peter and I have always, for instance, with the different shift staff here, made ourselves available on the weekend and the evenings, and said we would still come back and answer questions to people if they had them. We are, I think, cooking hot dogs for the night staff in June, so we will see them, and hopefully they can watch it, and then if they have any questions they can ask. So with that, thank you very much for attending today, and have a great rest of the day. Don't run out the door at the end of the day. It is pretty nice out. So,